Hello and welcome to Disturbing Ourselves podcast. My name is Joe.
My name's Vin.
And on this podcast, we talk about everything and anything that comes to mind. We also do take viewers' suggestions and topics. You can contact us at disturbingourselvespodcast@gmail.com. And you can also contact us through our Twitter at @DO_podcast. And let's just get into it from what we did from last time.
All right. So what do you want to cover first? We could cover Batman Red Rain, or we cover Lord of the Rings because we both did our self-challenges.
So for anyone who didn't listen to the last podcast, we did a challenge, basically challenging each other to look into stuff that the other person likes that the other person hasn't seen before or read or so on and so forth. So for mine, so far I've seen the first Lord of the Rings, and Vin, you read the Batman Vampire?
Yep, or commonly known as Red Rain, but yeah.
All right, so you just want to start off with that?
All right, I'll start off with Red Rain. So, first thoughts were, it was pretty good. It was neat. It blended some of that fantasy aspect into the superhero genre. Some issues with it. Definitely should realize that it's from the early 90s because language plays a big role, because I started laughing at some of the terminology because I didn't realize that, and I was like, who talks like that nowadays?
Well, yeah, I probably should have warned you about that. There's a lot of stuff with like older mediums of writing, though. There's that problem because I know there's a Avenger comic between Iron Man and Captain America, I think it is. And then I think Iron Man goes to Cap. He's like, I think you need a good dicking from Iron Man or something like that. And it apparently just meant to have a conversation, like, it's weird terminology that just sounds not okay, out of place.
But after realizing that the terminology from that
the book's
time,
a little dated, but
yeah, it was pretty good though. Like I said, favorite book I read? No, it's definitely the first graphic novel I've ever read. I've done, like I said, manga and stuff like that, but never any American stuff.
Well, those aren't too far off. I mean, a lot of manga doesn't have like coloration, and the panels are a little different.
Panels are a little different. Your whole book, it's usually like several chapters in a thing, like a graphic novel. I mean, that way, yeah, but I'm used to black and white, pretty much everything. And a lot more focus probably on like main perspective, but
well, it costs a lot more money to color and stuff like that too. So.
Right. But yeah, it was a good read. They did. I don't like how they did lycanthropy. For all those who don't know, that's when you pretty much take the wear effect on any creature. So like werewolf, were-tiger, were-bear. In the Batman Red Rain later on, spoilers. Sorry for whoever didn't think that was going to happen. Catwoman becomes a literal like were-cat, essentially, but she becomes a were-cat because she gets bitten or scratched from a werewolf, which in traditional lycanthropy, from the fantasy background I've come from, is based on like if you're bit by a werewolf, you become a werewolf. If you're bit by this, you become that.
Yeah, I feel like they just turned her in cat and using the excuses of her cats like coming near her as like.
Yeah, and licking her wounds turned her into the werewolf cat.
It was a sloppy explanation, but I think they were just trying to shoehorn Catwoman into the story.
Well, I mean, it worked because essentially, like, just like the vampire Batman, it is definitely a very unique concept for the vampire. From what I've read, most vampires don't become like grotesque like he does throughout the thing. They're usually evil from most of the things I've read. There's very few. I don't want to say friendly, but kind-hearted vampires. They're usually bent on some kind of.
Well, they turned him into that because they showed it actually, like when he got the stake through his chest and they forgot to cut his head off, which is how you're supposed to kill them in this universe. They just left a stake in his heart and kind of left him to rot there, but he was still alive, and I think that's kind of what set him off a little, made him go crazy.
No, I'm not saying so much the mind. I mean, the look itself, as you progress through the book, if you notice, he goes from normal vampire-esque character, as goes on after he goes through hardships and shit throughout the story, without spoiling everything, he his form changes as he goes on, and like you said, after the stake, it's a very very far change from humanoid to a more vile kind of creature, Batman, because his change form completely changes several times after that point.
Yeah, just the preface with this comic, though, I would not suggest it for like super young readers. It's not overly gory, but it definitely is gory.
It's definitely
So,
gory. So if you're triggered by blood, not the read for you. But it's a cool concept. So it starts off. Batman keeps seeing this girl in his. I don't know if it's his dream or if he's awake. I was a little confused on that. But she comes in a mist form.
it was supposed to be like a vision and a dream type thing, I
Okay.
think.
I wasn't exactly sure because they didn't like. Oh, I woke up from a dream. He was like, I think that was a dream from how he put it.
Right.
So he ends up meeting this girl. I think her name was Tanya.
Hmm.
She is a vampire, but she rejects the normal vampire trope and decides that she's not going to feed on people, and she makes a thin synthetic plasma, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so it goes on with that. Of course, everyone who helps him ends up dying at some point because that's just how it is. But she pretty much sets him off on this idea of how to be a good vampire instead of being like, I assume it was supposed to be Dracula that she was going up against.
Right. Well, the problem with her and her group fighting Dracula was that they were kind of subservient to him still, so like he could command them to do things. But the way he actually got turned into a vampire was actually through fighting Dracula, and he kind of staked them with a tree, I believe it was.
Um, Maybe I don't remember how I remember the tree staking, but I think that's how he kills Dracula.
Yeah, that's how he kills Dracula, but Dracula bit him, and that's how he became a vampire. The way he originally got the wings, though, was through like a blood transfusion from her,
Right.
because he started bleeding out.
Right. The wound wouldn't close from the scratch. I think it was. It might have been a bite. But essentially, he was bleeding out and he was going to die. So the good vampire Tanya decided she would give him a blood transfusion to pretty much heal him up. It turns out working out. Later on, of course, he develops wings and he tells Alfred he no longer needs the Batmobile because he can fly.
Yeah, well, in this comic, the Batmobile's really not that great looking either. Like you were saying, it kind of looked almost cartoony.
It did look cartoony. It looked like it had a face. I wanted it to dog. I thought that's what it looked like. It looked like it had a mouth and everything. But I have no problem with how the Batman looks. I'm used to like the newer movies, so I'm used to like tactical looking car. But I know it looked very different back in the older comics.
Right. Well, there's just been a bunch of different versions of the Batmobile too. It's like based off of like whatever the comic writer wants it to be, like the artist and all.
Right. So
Because
yeah,
I know back in the Golden Age and all that, like in the Silver Age, they had to do like crazy stuff, like turn into like planes and stuff like that,
that's
spaceship.
I didn't know that. But yeah, the art style is really beautiful. I like the art style. I like how he portrayed the story. It didn't seem rushed. It didn't seem like it was missing much. They didn't really explain much about the whole concept of that. Like, I assume it's acid rain because it's red and it kind of like melts their face.
Yeah, I think it's going back to like the whole thing of like acid rain back then and everything. It's not so much a problem anymore. It's from pollution, but I've never heard of it actually being red. But again, that's probably just an artistic choice.
It might be. It might not even be acid rain. It might be something completely else. I thought when I heard it was called Red Rain, it was about the concept of vampires. So I was thinking it was like a blood rain and all the death of citizens. But yeah, it was a good read. I would definitely recommend it as long as you're not against fantasy because then you're not gonna really get into it.
And two, if you have like a very strong aversion to like blood and violence, it shows like decapitation and a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and like I guess revenge killing or hate killing. I'm not really sure. He kind of just ends up throughout the book starts turning into this like more evil oriented. He starts reminding me of the idea of like a Joker character, where to the point he just starts murdering all of the other supervillains that are in his like world. So like Killer Croc, Two Face. I don't remember. I think he kills the Joker.
Poison Ivy was in that.
Oh, he kills the Joker because that's what corrupts his blood. Because he drinks the Joker's blood, which alters his state of mind.
Yeah, in this universe, if you haven't drank human blood but you're a vampire, you're immune to stuff like holy water and garlic and crosses, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the sun isn't as effective to you. You can also lean off human blood, giving you those abilities once more if you get it out of your system. But if you're constantly drinking blood, of course, you're more and more vulnerable to these things. They end up trying to kill him with wooden darts, actually, like stakes out of hand crossbows later on, which, of course, doesn't work. I'm coming down with something. But all in essentially, the ending's cool. I like how it ends. It reminds me of the guy who did Hateful Eight. I can't think of his name, though.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Trent Tarantino.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, of course, spoilers, but everyone dies. Batman ends up actually killing himself by walking out into the sun because he realizes that there's no going back for him, and he's going to remain this murderous, evil person if he doesn't purge himself.
Yeah, so this book was supposed to be like a self-contained story type thing, but they later on brought the character back. But you could just read it as a single thing because that's what it was originally intentioned for, rather. But yeah, he's sporadically thrown out through like some multiverse books, but other than that, he's not really in much.
I mean, he was a cool version of Batman. I like how he became like an actual vampire into it. But watching Batman go from this man that everyone knows him as being like upstanding, kind of like not breaking his rules, to the point of just straight up blood murder, decapitation.
Yeah, well, he went through like Arkham and murdered every inmate in there.
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that. That's right. He literally goes into essentially an insane asylum. He just starts murdering people.
Like they weren't even like famous villains either. They were like literally just like patients.
Anyone that got in his way, he just straight up took him out. But sadly, of course, I wish Tanya and Catwoman would have stayed through the book more. But chapter 1, Tanya dies. Chapter 2, Catwoman dies.
Well, I think that was also meant to like put the character through like a bunch of hardships, like to push him to a breaking point type thing.
Yeah, it was neat. But like I said, I wasn't a big fan of how they represented lycanthropy because Catwoman literally looked like a girl in a catsuit.
Yeah, I have to admit that was a little lazily done, but I don't know. The main part about this book is just kind of the transformation of the character, and the art style is very well done because it's all hand drawn.
Yeah, it's a very, very beautiful that way. I do love, like I said earlier, the art style. I would actually read it just for its art style. It's a very pretty book to look at. It's very colorful and very drastic with its choices.
Yeah, I mean the only downside with the art style though is like a lot of the older comics, since they were hand drawn, some of the faraway panels are less detailed.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see that, like, in one part, you could see, like, his whole rib cage open and his spine coming out, like, in a nice close-up shot. But then later on, you just see, like, blackness in the middle of his chest.
Yeah, but that's, like, the art style itself is... You're further away, so you're not going to see that close-up look to it.
True, but, like, even you were saying, like,
It just looked like his chest went back to normal, actually, in the slide. I know exactly what you're talking about. Because it looked like it just went back to normal, and I was wondering if that was part of the transformation, was being able to open your chest. But that was another thing I didn't understand, was the whole opening of the chest for a vampire, because most vampires don't corrode. They usually stay exactly how they are, but of course he wasn't drinking blood, so that could have been that reason.
true. I don't know. I feel like they took like some like different aspects and like just kind of mashed together to make their own kind of unique spin on it. But
Well, I'm thinking, for my opinion on it is the reason they kind of made Batman look more and more grotesque throughout the story is to show his transformation into this no longer human, no more morals kind of creature.
yeah, I think the whole story is just really kind of to give the character like a darker kind of feel to him.
Yeah, because he kills literally, he kills Alfred, and he kills Commissioner Gordon too.
Well, Alfred was like he told him to do it, and then I think Gordon got killed by like an explosion. Actually,
Boulder fell, I
yeah.
think, gets
So
crushed. But I think Alfred gets crushed too.
yeah. So other than like the dated lingo and some obvious liberties with like the fantasy stuff to it, what did you think?
Good. Like I said, I'd read it again. I would like to see more of the character. Of course, he's technically dead, so not really being able to read more. Um,
You can technically, but he's just sporadically thrown in the multiverse stories.
right. So maybe I could check them and so I'll find them. I like the idea of the character. I like this more evil Batman. I'm a big fan of like when characters turn against who they are and so forth. So
Well, that's why I like the multiverse books and like the What If from Marvel too. They kind of just warp the character and give it a new aspect. I like what writers can do with an original character and kind of turn it on its head.
well, they make it their own. Like that's a very unique Batman. I don't know of any other Batman stories where he's like that.
I don't think there is, honestly. Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know comics, so if anyone knows where Batman became an evil murderous man, other than the Batman Superman movie where he started using guns
Yeah, that was weird.
as Batfleck, but you can leave them in the comments below and tell us actually what they are. I'd be interested in reading them. I like the evil Batman. I think it makes his character. I like that idea of character better.
All right, so now on to my challenge, which was the Lord of the Rings one.
All right, look,
You want to talk about dated, by the way?
it's not really that dated. It's 2000 and 2001. I forget the exact year, but they know
Some of this stuff is very dated, though.
it wasn't so much dated. I'm just realizing watching it now, some of the scenes are not very well executed, and you know exactly what scene I'm talking about.
What, the fight between Gandalf and
Saruman.
Saruman? When they're just pointing sticks at each other and screaming, and then at one
And that's
point Gandalf is spinning on the floor like he's breakdancing.
Yeah, very poorly executed. I didn't even remember that scene happened. I do remember they fought, but that's not how
I gotta admit, that made me laugh pretty hard.
I laughed at it actually in the rewatch. I do love Lord of the Rings though, for all the Lord of the Rings fans
I'm
out
not dissing on it. I know it's like a 16-year-old movie, but I just thought that was kind of funny.
there. That scene's pretty fun. Pretty dated, messed up.
The
And,
effects they did with the hobbits and all, making them look shorter, because I know they're actually like full height actors and all that. Like that was pretty decent.
yeah, I never really looked into it or thought about it. My brain has always just been thinking they got all these short ass people, and I was like, oh wow, they're like perfect height.
Well, I know they kind of give the people from Lord of the Rings crap for not hiring shorter actors and all that, just for that whole thing. But
Yeah, but halflings don't aren't built like your normal like LP people. They're literally like shrunk humans.
true,
Well, hobbits. D&D is halflings for the most part.
right?
They're usually like built like normal. They're very quick, large feet that are way too big for their body, and covered in hair. As you pointed out, why don't they wear shoes?
I mean, I know you said they have like leathery feet on the bottom.
Yeah, the bottom's actually like leathery. It's something about silence walking through the thing.
I would still worry about like stepping on stuff though. Like even if your foot is like calloused and all, like you're gonna.
There's actually like in Africa, a lot of people don't wear shoes. They run through the bush and all like that. So it works that way. Yeah, there's some issues with the movie, but what were your thoughts? Like, go from the beginning scene with Gandalf coming to town.
Well, I thought they did like a nice little intro with him and the other hobbits and all that. I thought the what was his name? The first hobbit he meets,
Bilbo.
Bilbo. I know he's like a very like beloved character and all that, but I don't know. There was something off from him, like visually speaking. Like I don't know. Like
Oh wait,
he had
are
a
you
weird
talking
look to him.
Are you talking about Frodo, the main hobbit, or are you talking about the first hobbit he meets?
Frodo, right? He gets in the fireworks cart with him.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking first. Never mind. My brain was thinking other way at first hobbit he meets. But yeah, it's a very young looking face to him.
Yeah, it's like an artificially young looking face. I don't know. It's kind of off putting in my opinion, but that's just because I didn't grow up with it. Also, I understand, again, this stuff's is kind of a little dated, so I'm not going to be too hard on that. I did like the whole transformation they did with like Bilbo when they tried to take the ring from him, and he kind of like wigged out,
And his
and
face
his
changed.
face shifted. Like that was
You were
actually
cracking
kind of
up.
cool.
You were cracking up at that. I cracked up because I forgot that happened too.
It was funny, but it looked really cool at the same time.
But yeah, that's all because the ring is like super addictive once you use it.
Well, I think I was laughing at it because Bilbo is supposed to be like this weak, frail old man, and then he just like went crazy demon out of nowhere.
Yeah, he gets very angry about the ring. He loves that ring, but that's why it's his precious.
Yeah, and then there's the one guy that I only know as a living meme. The
Oh.
one does not simply guy.
I forget his. I think it's Baromir, but yeah, he. For all those who haven't seen it, you should see it. I mean, it's been like 16 years since it's been out, so I don't know what your excuse is.
It's not a bad movie. I'm not gonna say that. If you have like an aversion to like bad effects, though, might kind of throw you off a tad, but not
But
too much.
If you're into fantasy, you'll love the movie. He's not into fantasy, so he has an skewed opinion. Just like I have an skewed opinion because I love fantasy. So for me watching, I'm like,
I don't know
this
if mine's
and
a
that.
skewed or non-biased because I have no interest in the genre really.
You don't have a big interest in the fantasy genre altogether. You're not towards it. You don't like it.
True. I'm not. I don't hate on it. It's just I'm not like into it kind of thing.
Right, but it's not like a neutral thing. It's not like, oh yeah, I'll watch if it's on. It's a no.
Yeah, I don't know. You kind of said you had the same feeling initially when you were reading the comic too.
I did mainly because the wording kind of threw me, and like I said, I'm a big fantasy nerd. So when people take like the fantasy concept and skew them out of like how I've grown up to know them, I'm like, eh. But eventually, I understood that it's its own self-contained storyline with its own self-contained concept, which causes it to look different and behave different.
True. Although I really didn't dislike Lord of the Rings. I just found that it had a lot of scenes that didn't feel like they really needed to be there, like him setting off the fireworks and all. I thought that was kind of stupid.
Well, that's actually put in there to show a perspective of that character as a person. So,
No, I understand that, but at the same time, I feel like they gave a better like showing of the character when he was communicating like to the hobbits. Like when he was talking to like Bilbo and all that in private, I feel like I got a better feel for his character other than here's this crazy old man who doesn't use his powers unless he wants to set off fireworks out of a cart.
that is true. He doesn't. He really doesn't use his powers much. He does in the second.
Which
and
I
third
don't
movie more.
get. Like, why would you? If you could like do insane things, like I know in that universe you're not supposed to or whatever.
Well,
but
it's they pray to this goddess pretty much. They worship this one goddess. And yeah, they're not supposed to like alter the world. They're not supposed to be like what Saruman does is completely wrong. He's not supposed to be using his power to cause problems for the world or completely save the world. It's more about, from what I've grasped, keeping that medium of good and bad.
right, so kind of like the Doctor Strange thing, but not exactly.
I would say it's more like the Star Wars concept of like keeping balance to the Force,
Gotcha.
because like the Jedi's don't go at like.
Oh, kind of like the concept of like the Great Jedi, like
No, no.
being a
Well, yeah, they'd be like the Great Jedi, I guess, but
well,
the-
because they try to. The concept of a Great Jedi is. I'm not sure if it's actually like in any of the movies or the
I don't know
books.
if it's canon, but I see.
It's supposed to be like a balance of the dark and the light kind of thing. It's like supposed to be like an equilibrium gray area, but
Well, they are the light, these wizards, but they're more like the normal Jedi, where they're like they don't go out just using the Force to abuse it. They use
Right.
it when needed. He ends up using it more and more throughout, but yeah, he usually does it for like very little things. But he does use it to kill. Spoilers. He ends up killing the Balrog, which you haven't seen that scene yet. That's in part 2. He comes back actually after he falls. But like you said, that scene when he falls towards the end of the movie.
I thought that was kind of stupid. They didn't just go over and help him. He's like, "Run, you fools!" But the guy's at the bottom of the pit, and he's just hanging off a cliff. You could just literally walk up and pick him up.
Well, part of that I forgot. to do is, I'm pretty sure Saruman knows where he is or has been following him, like, some form of way. That's part of the problem, from what I understand. But I think he was afraid that the ledge would fall.
Right.
If anyone went on it, the hobbits couldn't pull them up. They wouldn't have enough strength. And all the other people are pretty much wearing armor.
I mean, they could have all just waited for the guy. I mean, they kind of just left them.
He fell, and then they walk out.
True.
But that's all to build up his character when he comes back as Gandalf the White instead of Gandalf the Gray.
Yeah, also, if you're just watching that first movie, I guess you got to take into account there's a bunch of other ones, too, so...
Yeah, it's a very set-up kind of movie. It shows you Saruman, it shows you the elves, it shows you pretty much everything in the world, and kind of gives you this idea that something's coming.
Right.
And it ends up being war, of course, because it's a fantasy movie. What else is going to happen other than a giant war?
I don't know. All I heard was fantasy and something is coming, and I just went, winter is coming.
Completely wrong series with...
I know.
Yeah, he seems like he's trying to reinvent fantasy with his books. I'm always used to Tolkien's books and concepts. You know, elves live for practically unlimited time, and so forth. But like the second and third movie are much more fast. It's battle after battle, and it's all urgency. It's all, we got to do this because something's coming, and so forth. But definitely the first movie is very slow. I give you that, and it's a lot of setup. And if you don't know fantasy, it can be a little confusing. Because you're like, why are these hobbits in this thing? Why aren't they living with people? It's like the races are treated differently. Usually elves are very snobby, and there's a lot of little things to it. But rewatching it, I already knew all the story, so to me, I was just like...
I like how we noticed, though, when watching it, that Skyrim literally stole the elven armor.
I wouldn't say it's stolen. It's very close.
Exactly the same.
It's not. I looked at it. It's not exact. It's like...
It's almost.
It's like the same color and everything, too. And curvatures and stuff. It's very similar. But you gotta remember, Tolkien, pretty much from what I know, set fantasy.
True. I guess they could claim inspiration, but it looked like they were stealing the concept. But besides the point, I did find it funny, though. This isn't really like a moment that necessarily comes from the movie. It was just us talking while we were watching it. As they're going towards the one like area where the waterfall is, there's these two giant statues with their hands out, and then I think you went like something along the lines of, why would you build something like that? I never understood that, like through history and everything. And they're literally going, stop, there's a waterfall.
Yeah, if anyone's seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. When they're riding the boats after the Mines of Moria, and they're going down, it's after the Elven City, and there's these two giant statues with their hands out, making like the stop sign with their hand, and then right behind the statues, a few hundred yards, is a big waterfall where the heroes get off their boats on the nearby land. But yeah, it was like, there's no point. Like, who wasted their life building this? Because no god put it there. Some human, some elf, some dwarf spent a long ass time chiseling away a mountain. Like, what if they would have fucked up?
True.
Like, knocked the hand off on accident.
But I mean, then again, when you look at it, it's like a universal sign of, you might want to stop.
I don't know if it was for that purpose.
It's what it looked like.
I hope it's for that purpose, because otherwise it serves no purpose.
Well, there's two statues right before a waterfall going, like, don't go there.
Alright, well, other than that, it's aesthetically pleasing. That's the only other reason I can think of.
I don't know. Cultures through history, though, did that for, like, religious purposes and stuff like that, so...
I don't know. I don't know the religion of Lord of the Rings very well. That is one part of the genre I'm lacking.
But, other than, like, the small technicalities and, like, the goofiness of some of the scenes, because it's a little dated, like, when that goddess throws her arms up and shifts color, it looks like someone put a photo in negative and started screaming. Like, it was a little...
Yeah, that was poorly executed.
But other than, like, the graphical stuff like that and everything, I think it was pretty well done. It was a little slow for my taste. Like, if I'm going to watch fantasy, I kind of want it to be a little more fast-paced. But I understand it's a setup.
Yeah, it's me and Matt were talking about our other friend. He's also into fantasy. It's a very slow movie. I forgot how slow it was because I watched the second one the next day with Yayu here, and it went in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I didn't even realize because it's like boom, 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 like three things back to back, and then pause, and then another three things, and it's a lot of like, oh shit, I didn't know this guy could do this, or oh, he's
Right.
the true king. And you get to know more about the characters. It's where you actually learn that Aragon's 87 years old,
Yeah.
which he looks like he's 25. But he's a special race. If anyone knows, they could tell me what it is. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, but we're gonna keep up with these challenges essentially. One because, well, we said it, and two because we're trying to like make more content for you guys. If you have any other challenges or something else like that you want us to check out, again, just hit us up. But I'm thinking for the next podcast, we should. I'm gonna continue the next Lord of the Rings movie, and it's not necessarily comic related, but I know you haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah.
So I think you should watch like a couple episodes of Man in the High Castle.
Probably gonna tell you the truth. I'll probably binge the entire thing.
That's weird because it's taken you forever to even look at it.
Listen, I like to have binge days. I talked about this, I think, last podcast. I like to have everything set up, and then, like, Monday, when I'm on break, I am watching this show from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. And then I'll have X amount of seasons done. And then next day, and I'll finish that, and I'll be like, all right.
You are the type of person who wants to watch several years of a show in one hit.
I like to watch them all back to back. Then it kind of blurs everything together and makes it feel super coherent.
Yeah.
Because I hate waiting for a season. Like, I'm reading that How to Be an Adventurer, or not How to Be an Adventurer, Is It Wrong to Crawl in the Dungeon, light novel series. And I have to wait for it to be translated because I can't read Japanese. And the next book doesn't come out till April 2017. So this year,
jeez.
April. So I got 4 months. I read 7 books in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So for me to have to stop and not be able to finish a story bothers me. I'd really like to be able to read it from beginning to end. Or like series that just drop off and you're like, alright, well, it'll be back this year. And it never comes back, like Casa No Stigma.
Yeah.
Apparently the writer died, or the artist died.
Oh, jeez.
So it stopped that season. He never finished the next one, and no one ever carried it on, it seems like. Or he might have signed, George R.R. Martin's doing, where Next of Kin can't finish it, or they might just not be finished it because no one wants to ruin his story.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of writers do that, though, to protect the integrity of their IPs and stuff like that, especially if they don't want their stuff being messed with. But
I mean, but other than that, Lord of the Rings. So, what other scenes do we have some issues with? I didn't know that what do your elf eyes see. I completely forgot that is an actual quote from the movie. I thought that was a joke I found on the internet because that is like the weirdest phrasing.
oh, kind of like the one does not simply kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a meme. And then people make fun of also the scene when he goes, a red sun rises, blood was spilt this night, as references to periods. I know because I sent my girlfriend that when I was now she's my ex, but when I was dating her at the time, I sent that to her. I forgot she wasn't into fantasy, so she had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, probably not a good thing to say that to someone, but
Yeah, well, they never mention again that a red sun rises and there is blood spilt, like, soon, every night. And I'm always like, I want to hear that quote every time for consistency.
yeah. But other than that, I thought Lord of the Rings was pretty good. But for The Man in the High Castle, to preface it, I believe it was a book. It was actually published around the same time that the story is supposed to take place.
Okay.
It's like 10 years, I think, after World War II.
Amazon has it, right? It's about Germany takes over, and then Germany and Japan
Yeah, it's basically
split
if
the country.
if the U.S. lost World War II, and then it has the whole thing with Japan and Germany. I just thought it was like a neat little concept. Like, I know obviously it's horrible, but I like history, and I kind of also, like I said before, like when things are flipped on their head, I like to see what it would actually be like. And I saw Amazon did that, and I was a little. I don't want to say concerned, but a little weirded out that Amazon's first original show was about Nazis taking over the world.
You think that, but how do you think people felt? Because apparently there was some issues with their advertising because it just put swastikas everywhere, pretty much on like buses, and no one knew about the show.
Yeah, they didn't even say it was like a show or something like that. People were just pissed.
It didn't say Man in the High Castle. It was just like the picture with
Like of the American
swastika.
flag with a swastika on it, yeah.
Yeah, in one of the buses. And people, I don't know how true it was, but I heard they got like a bunch of shit for it. Of course, it was on Facebook, so take it all with a grain of salt because I don't always trust the people that post things on Facebook.
But yeah, I mean, at first when I saw it, I was like, I don't know about this, like, because one, Amazon is an online retailer, and it's kind of weird to see them just publish their own original content when I first saw it. But I checked it out. It's actually pretty well written. I would say it's like on the level of like HBO and Showtime.
Well, I wasn't weirded out by the fact that they published show. I was actually surprised it took this long, to tell you the truth.
I was surprised anyone really had the balls to do it.
Well, that concept, yeah. But
Yeah.
Netflix has been doing it for a while, I'm pretty sure now, with their whole like original series. And they started off just as video streaming.
True,
And
but I
delivering.
thought it was kind of like an abrupt switch because Amazon went from like selling his stuff online to making shows about Nazis.
Well, you're forgetting. they also
Amazon
have-
makes sense though. Not Amazon. Netflix makes more sense though, just because they already had like a media streaming and like
Well, you gotta remember,
distribution unit.
if you have Amazon Prime, you had Amazon Music, Photo, and Video. I think there's more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. Video, they've had streaming for a while, as far as I know, and I use their music app constantly. We're not sponsored by Amazon, but if they want to sponsor us, go for it.
Yeah, I'll take free stuff from Amazon.
What do you get if you get sponsored by Amazon? Like, do you get merchandise, or do you just get like gift cards for Amazon?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd just be happy with being paid for the advertisement, but that's besides the point.
If anyone wants to let us know what Amazon does when they sponsor someone, go for it. I would be very interested in that.
Yeah.
So they do all that stuff. I mean, I use all their apps. I love Amazon. It's my favorite site. I have Prime because I'm a student, so it's only half price.
True.
Can do it for like 4 years at that price. So $50 a year. I can't beat it.
Yeah, it's not bad. And then plus, like, you get all the added benefits, like the Prime Music along with that too. Like, you can
Prime
download
Music.
it. And then if you like upgrade for like $7 more a month, like
Oh
you
yeah, I
get, like
did
a
that
bunch of them.
Prime Unlimited, or something, or Music Unlimited, something like that.
Oh, it's definitely a good deal for students. Plus, like the free 2-day shipping or something like that. They have.
Yeah, free 2-day shipping on any Prime item. It's great
And
for
then if like you're
textbooks.
in, I think if you're like in New York or like some other major cities, you can get like 2-hour delivery. I don't know how much that costs, but
They also have Amazon Fresh, which I haven't signed up for yet, but I'm looking into it.
I'm interested in seeing their like employee-less like store, like it's a ShopRite type thing. Like I'm interested to see how that does because they have no employees.
They have employees. They have a lot of employees.
No, I mean at the actual like place that they're doing. They're opening it up. I forget where it was, but it's literally like there's no cashiers or anything like that. It's just like a straight up supermarket. I don't know when it opens, but
I mean, they have Fresh now, which is I just type in what I want and they send it to me within like so many hours,
true.
which I would love to do because the less I have to go out to go food shopping, the better, and the less my dad does the food shopping, the better, because he will buy the most random things. Like, guys, it's December, well, it's January now, but it was like a week ago. He decided he was going to buy 4 turkeys on a whim. Like, I mean, like 4 16-pound turkeys to cook because he wanted fried turkey. I still don't know why we bought 4 of them. Because I'm not a big fan of turkey. I know my mom doesn't eat it, and my little sister, like me, isn't a big fan. I eat it like Thanksgiving, maybe once or twice more a year.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not really that big of a fan of it either, to be honest.
But yeah, like, or he bought 2 air fryers. We don't know why.
Yeah, for
You
those of you who don't know what an air fryer is, it's like a deep fryer, but they literally use air. I'm not really sure how that works, but
I don't know how it works either, but it's supposed to be healthier because you don't use all the oil and fat and stuff. But he just came home, and I was trying to explain to him not to buy these the entire time we're in the store because we don't need it. Bought 2 of them.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about buying the produce online though, because I feel like if I'm gonna get food and all that, like I want to be able to see it before I get it, you know?
If it was anyone other than Amazon, probably wouldn't trust it. But
True.
considering I've never had a problem with Amazon at all, I have no problem ordering anything from them at this point. If it says like sold by Amazon, I don't even question it. Like I won't buy it from third parties, but
Sure. I mean, I'll still look at the reviews and stuff like that. Like, I'm not gonna buy something with like one review and it says great and that's it.
I know I still read all the food reviews because I want to know like, all right, if I'm buying this steak, is it very fatty? Is it more lean?
Right.
How thick is it? Because it just says the ounces for the most part.
Mhm.
So I want to get a more of a how I'm getting this, so I know how I can prepare it. Because you know, like I'm making lasagna this week for people to come over and eat it.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like Amazon does like a lot of stuff. I don't know how they don't like get overloaded. Like I know a lot of their employees hate working for them, like especially like the delivery truck drivers.
Oh yeah, it's insane. They do so much now. They're taking over the market. I mean, you can go on other websites to buy things and use your Amazon account to buy it, which I love because it's so simple. Because I just keep my Amazon logged in. It's one click buy for me.
All right, so we should probably stop doing free advertisement for Amazon, but
That just make me want to go buy shit from Amazon.
true. But anyway, let's
Yeah,
move on to
my
the
father's
next
son.
topic. All
That's
right, so as we talked about before, we were looking into probably doing movie reviews, but instead of doing them separately from like this podcast, like what we're looking to do in the future, for now, I feel like we should just do it within these and just do like a quick 15-20 minute review of the movie. We'll do a quick couple minutes, spoiler free, just so you guys can get a feel for it. That way you don't like ruin anything, and then you guys can come back and listen to the rest of it if you want.
Okay, so we're gonna start off spoiler free, and then at some point we're gonna have to be like spoilers.
Right.
Okay.
So for this week, we saw the movie Passengers.
Yep. Dragon Box, like I said last week, great device. You should buy one. They also do not pay for advertising, but if they wanna, they want to. I have no problem talking about them. I love their devices.
Sure, but also I feel like this movie should be seen in IMAX 3D, like in the theaters. Like it's a very visually pleasing movie.
It would be very nice to have it. I need to get surround sound speakers, but yeah, in IMAX 3D, it would look way better. Mainly because it's an outer space movie, takes place on a ship. Leaving Earth, going to a new planet. They don't really explain why.
Yeah, I'm assuming just because like something's going wrong with the Earth. They don't really say why. All right, so this stars Jennifer Lawrence and I
Chris
think
Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
And the main two.
So basically, it just goes over the journey to go together throughout this whole thing. It's kind of like a love story, but not exactly. There's a lot of like suspense and action in it. It kind of has like psychological stuff to it, stuff like that. But quick review of it. I think it was really good. The ending was like
Abrupt.
a little abrupt, but other than that, it was really good. And they did some stuff in the movie that they didn't reveal through the trailer, which I thought was nice. Like it just made it look like
Yeah,
a
it was-
corny little love story, and then
It's not.
they just showed exactly what happened after that, and it's not okay like at all.
No, it's not okay. It's definitely gives you that whole thought of it shows like Chris Pratt's how his brain's working and everything throughout the movie. I forget what
It
their
shows
name
like
is.
the human need for connection too.
Yeah, I forget what their names are in the movie. I can't remember for the life of me.
I think her name in that was Aurora, and
Yeah.
his name I want to say was Jim. I could be completely wrong on that.
That-
I know
that sounds
the girl's name was Aurora, but
I think it was Jim. Pretty sure it was Jim.
anyway, let's get into the spoiler territory because it's really hard to talk about this movie without that.
Yeah. I was actually
So,
biting my tongue.
warning for everyone: we're gonna start spoiler areas. So pause the video rather if you want to go see the movie, and just come back to us. And if you guys don't care about spoilers, I guess we're just gonna jump into it.
All right, so of course it starts off with Chris Pratt waking up from hypersleep. No reason why. It just says that it wakes him up, and he's the only human aboard the ship awake.
Yeah, he doesn't realize it first, and then there's like a whole orientation that activates through like holograms. He's the only one there. It's meant to hold like 500,000 people, I think it was.
The orientation probably in like 20 or 30, but the ship
No, I meant the
itself,
whole ship itself.
yeah, I think it's like 500,000. It's a huge ship. When you see it, like when they show the shot from outside, it's humongous, and it's going super quick.
Yeah, but as he goes through the ship, he goes up to the interface and like he goes up to the bartender, which is like the only humanoid robot on the ship.
Well, from the waist up.
Right. So the bottom part of him is a wheel. But yeah, he goes up to him and it goes, "How long until we arrive at the new planet?" And they go 90 years.
Yeah, so he's wakes up literally middle of their journey because they're 90 years from Earth and they're 90 years
Away
the other
from
planet,
that. So
which you find out later on when they talk about turning back. But it turns out there's a problem with this ship, and you don't know this for the whole time. Chris Pratt just thinks that his character thinks that there was just a problem with the pod.
right, so it seems from like what the movie was trying to show that he had some sort of engineering
Because
background.
he tries to fix it,
So he tries to fix it, and
fails.
well, it opens and closes, but apparently you need to do like a bunch of procedures in order to knock yourself back out.
Well, the rest of the pod isn't working.
Right.
Because he gets back in it and it just seals. It doesn't do the whole rest of the thing. So he goes
About
on
a,
with life
yeah,
by himself.
by
a
a
year.
for like a year,
A year and
like,
3 weeks.
there's a whole like thing on the ship, like there's a basketball court, there are restaurants, stuff like that. So initially it doesn't bother him too bad, but
In the
then
beginning,
he
it
kind
doesn't bother him.
right, but then he kind of goes crazy, homeless Chris Pratt.
Yeah, he stops shaving. He gets like this huge beard. He gets buff. He pretty much spends his entire time working out, playing this dance interface game, and trying to break into the captain's quarters to wake the crew.
Right, but it's like reinforced, like there's no way to get through it.
Yeah, he can't. He can't get through it.
So then that whole thing goes on, and the entire time he's talking to like the bartender because that's the closest thing he has to a person to talk to.
And then he finds the interface with the other passengers.
And then he finds Aurora's
File.
her file, like her bio and everything, saying she's a writer. And then he starts acting kind of creepy, and he starts like having breakfast and lunch, watching her video next to her pod.
Next to
Kinda
her
losing it.
sleeping, where you can see her.
So he keeps talking to the bartender. He keeps going, I want to wake her up, kind of thing.
And the bartender is all for him waking her up.
Until he goes, "But she died here." So he goes, "I want to wake her up." And he's like, "Oh, that'd be nice." And then he goes, "But she died on the ship." And he's like, "Oh, that wouldn't be nice."
Yeah. Well, of course, this is all spoilers now. Of course, he eventually breaks down and messes with her pod, wakes her up,
Doesn't tell her.
runs from the room before she becomes oriented. They end up falling in love. They do this whole montage about how he teaches like how to live with the ship.
Well,
and where
initially she
everything
kind of
is.
freaks out because the pod failed and all that.
Right, but eventually
Yeah.
they do the whole they start playing basketball and everything. Then the bartender slips.
Yeah, he told the bartender not to say anything to her and wait until he said something, but it was like a year after all that had happened, and I guess the bartender just kind of guessed he said something.
Well, he didn't say it directly. He wasn't like
Right.
he was said something about with like, "Aren't you happy he woke you up?" And she's like, "What?" And this moment, Jim like walks in the room with a ring that he made out of precious metal, but they don't say which kind. So I assume silver or platinum,
Right.
because it's that color. She freaks out and leaves, and then comes back a couple days later.
Like when he's sleeping inside his room.
Starts beating him up, and then grabs a crowbar, and is about to end him.
Yeah, and then she just kind of leaves, and it's kind of like a distance thing for a while.
Yeah,
The
where
robot,
they avoid each other.
you start noticing things are going wrong because like the interfaces start glitching. She goes to get food, it pours out gallons of like orange juice and all that.
No, it's some kind of cereal.
Something like that. But
And like robots are breaking. I think up to then it's like 15 of them. And it goes on.
then Chris Pratt plants a tree for some reason. He tries to kind of apologize to her through the intercom. She
In the
freaks
middle.
the hell out.
plants a tree in the middle of the ship's bay.
Like
Or-
overnight kind of thing. It wasn't
yeah,
like
yeah, it was actually pretty impressive. I was like, how did he do that? But he ends up planting a tree.
then the captain woke up.
Then the captain wakes up and has a whole bunch of questions, and the first one is who planted a tree.
Chris Pratt's like him, and then he asks how long he's been awake in total. 2 years. He finds out about the pod was tampered with by Chris Pratt. They look and see that the fusion reactors having issues and stuff like that.
Well, no, they don't figure that out. They figure out that there's a problem, and they go to look to see what the problem is.
Right.
Then the captain starts coughing up blood and falls. They take him to the sick bay, and he has 612 problems, and there's no cure.
Yeah, apparently when his pod failed, it failed at a bad time and caused like organ failure. So they put him into like a scanner thing, and he gets the procedure done like to see what's wrong with him, and then he goes to Chris Pratt. He's like, how many things are wrong with me or whatever, and he goes, well, a few, and then it shows 612 on the monitor.
Yeah, he was dead. It actually,
And then the ship tried to give him pills to kill himself.
No, they were supposed to make him not feel any pain during his last few hours.
True.
Of course, he doesn't take them. They have this heartwarming moment where it's Chris Pratt as Jim, Aurora, and the captain. I don't know I forget who he is as an actor. I can't think of his name. It's killing me.
He's not super well known, but he's recognizable. I forget what his name is for the life
I can't
of me.
remember him. But they have the super heartwarming moment where they're all sitting and like looking out into space, and just he goes, "I wish I would have took those pills." And then the captain takes off the band and gives it to Pratt's character Jim to be able to fix the problem.
Right. So him and Aurora go through the ship trying to fix the issue. They finally stop trying to like give each other the cold shoulder, and she stops trying to kill him.
Well, she only tries that once. And the sad part is we didn't really cover this, but they had such like a heart-to-heart moment, like when she woke up and didn't know that Jim had woken her up. He does like all this stuff to get her attention. He builds a robot to deliver a message. They go and like watch as they pass next to the sun, and like all these really nice moments. Then she finds out, freaks out. Then a lot of stuff starts happening with the ship. Like she's in the water swimming, and
that was a cool scene.
The artificial gravity goes off, and
she starts drowning in zero gravity water
because she can't move any direction.
Eventually, they kick back on though, and
she gets out.
She got out, but
I thought she was going to die. I was like, really? This is how they're going to take her out?
Yeah, the trailer did not give this movie justice at all to what it actually is.
Yeah, the only scene in the trailer that shows any problems is when the robot smashes its head in the bar and it knocks all the glass off, which happens. But I thought like there was a robot malfunction. It was going to be like the robots do something. No. A meteor apparently somehow got into the ship and hit part of the fusion reactor, causing it to overheat. And the rest of the ship is trying to compensate for the main reactor not working.
Yeah, so then him and Aurora, they both go to the main fusion reactor, and the only way to fix it is to vent it out. So the one has to be on the one handle, and the other one has to be outside of the ship to open it.
No, they're supposed to just be able to pull that one, but it's jammed.
But there was a problem, yeah.
So
then
he
they had to
puts
do
on
that.
a spacesuit and takes a door with him. Like, I don't know what the door was for. I think it was for medical supplies. Apparently it was heat resistant. He takes it with him. And he goes into this exhaust pipe. And he goes and he opens the door, the secondary door, and realizes it's not going to stay open. So he goes, listen, I'm going to have to stay here. You're going to have to pull the lever. It's the only way we can do this. She falls back into the whole concept of love, doesn't want him to die. Now that she realizes that he might be gone forever, she kind of comes to terms with maybe it wasn't the worst thing he did.
Right, because they show like her with like the video from her friends and all that. She kind of just abandoned them and all.
Yeah, they apparently all got these videos of their friends and family after they found out they made it on to this science expedition, I guess you could call it. saying like, I hope you find your new life and all this stuff. But they didn't see those videos. They weren't, I guess, supposed to see them until they make
Right.
it to the new planet, which is Earth 2, right?
Uh,
Terra 2,
no, it wasn't. It was Homestead too.
Homestead 2.
But yeah, that all happens. He somehow survives, but his thing gets torn after the reactor goes
He
off.
gets shot out into space.
She goes after
The
him.
cord snaps.
Right.
And he's floating. She goes and puts on the suit and comes running out for him. He also has an oxygen leak, so he faints. And she misses him by like an inch or two, and you're like,
Yeah.
no way. Of course, there's a silver lining. The cord comes spinning around from his body,
But she kind of just
grabs
fishes
it,
him
and pulls him in, and then pulls herself in.
in.
Saves
He's
his life.
dead.
Oh, right, that part. He dies technically.
So then she puts him into the same chamber they put the captain in to check out what was wrong with him. And then it just goes, he's dead. So then she asks for it to do a bunch of procedures. It says no.
It says no. She doesn't ask to. She clicks resuscitate. You thought it said resurrect, and then instead of just clicking like CPR, which is what you would do, she does all 10 options, and it's like blood transfusion or something. It's a list. I
They're
can't
injecting
remember
him,
what they are.
shooting with lasers.
Yeah, they did like all kinds of weird shit, and then pads came down and they were shocking them, which you don't do. I'm a nursing student. You don't shock someone if their heart's stopped. You actually shock someone when their hearts are regular to stop it, and then you do CPR to start normal rhythm back up.
Right, but yeah, they just do a bunch of crazy procedures to him that should not work and
It's a neat little montage,
would kill anyone who's already okay.
Yeah, it would have killed you if you were alive. Well, shocking someone, that's perfectly normal, could kill them. But, of course, he comes back. They have this whole, that they're back in love. They live their life out. Which,
They fixed the bartender back up because he got all sorts of
he
screwed.
goes, why are you putting makeup on me?
And then she's like, shush.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
But yeah, of course, it's very hard when that way. Then they make it to the planet, and there's a letter or a book or something.
There's she wrote on like some of the computers like what happened, and I think there's a note too, just saying what happened.
That they're dead if you're reading this. You've made it to the planet, everything's okay. And then the flight crew walks into the main area, because I guess they're the first one supposed to wake.
Yeah, and so does
To a
everyone
forest.
else. Yeah, they planted an entire forest and
With
like the main lobby.
chickens and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's not just plants. There's chickens and I don't know, other birds, some cattle. I think.
I don't know. It was a lot to see, and it was super quick. So it was like it panned up from the grass and shows this giant tree, and then it shows their faces, and then it goes black.
Yeah, so kind of an abrupt ending, but definitely good on the movie maker's part not to reveal everything that was going on.
In the trailer, I thought that was my favorite part. That the trailer wasn't the best scenes. Most of my favorite scenes had nothing and were nowhere near the trailer. Also, I think that last scene with the trees should have been after the credits, like they do in Marvel. I would have found that funny. I would have found that in a good place, and they should have ended it when they made up, and we're all happy again.
Right. No, but all in all, I enjoyed the movie. I would definitely watch it again. And they were actually, the actors that were in the movie, there was like 3 or 4 people. They were all really great.
It was 2, for the most part.
No, because the bartender was one, and then the captain was one.
Oh, I thought the bartender was just CGI.
Not well, the bottom half, obviously, but yeah.
Oh, I thought maybe the whole. I didn't know. I didn't look at the. I just knew those two, and I like both of them actors. Well, actor and actress, but.
Yeah, but I do enjoy movies that don't give away all their plot points immediately in the trailer. I feel like that kind of ruins it.
I would like another movie about their time on that ship. I want to know if they ended up waking other people up.
Yeah, I feel like they might have just started doing that.
I think I would have. I would have woke everyone up. I've been like, listen, we're just gonna live out on the ship.
Yeah, but other than the abrupt ending, it was a really good movie, and I think you guys should check it out. I
Yeah.
think that pretty much.
Yeah, I would say that wraps it up.
You think so too with the whole thing? Like any problems with it at all, or?
No, I love the movie. I thought it was very well done. It reminded me a lot of Pandorum, but no space ninjas, so there was no plot hole.
If you don't know what Pandorum is, check that out on your own. It's a cheaper sci-fi movie.
We'll definitely review it one day. We need an answer to the Space Ninjas, because I don't think we talked about it last podcast.
We didn't. So, anyway, I think that's going to do it for this episode today. Again, you can contact us at disturbingourselvespodcast@gmail.com, or you can contact us through our Twitter at @DO_podcast. Other than that, thanks everyone for tuning in. My name's Joe.
I'm Ben.
And this has been the Disturbing Ourselves podcast.
Have a good day.